What's up, YouTube? I'm Mike, and today I'm back with part 10 of the marathon What Is It Really Like to Be Homeless series. When I left you last time, I was explaining that I had met this guy at a bus station who was basically explaining some of the tricks of the trade for how to basically live a better quality of life homeless. He had asked, he showed me the internet cafe as I was explaining and was trying to get me really to kind of be his traveling partner, I think. So I did some thinking about this last night, trying to pin down this timeline as best as I can because, like I said, dude, I mean, it's a lot of shit mixed into, from like 25 years ago, 23 years ago. So I did remember that I begrudgingly agreed to meet up with this guy back at the internet cafe in Garland. And, we had set a time and I made it out there. And he was expressing that he had decided to go, I think it was back to Austin, if I remember. He was going to go somewhere basically out of DFW to meet up with this other group that was going to go on some hike. Like I was saying, this guy was like your standard granola libtard kind of hippie kid. And he thought he was going to go backpacking all over the country. And I think it was just a cover for the fact that he was totally homeless. And so I'm real apprehensive about this. I was born and raised in DFW, spent my whole life here. I was not real keen on the idea of being homeless somewhere else. I mean, it was like I was having enough time with what limited help I did have access to, much less getting hundreds of miles away with some random dude that I met at a fucking bus stop one morning. And so I was asking him some questions like, well, how are we going to get down there? It's like a long way. I'm not trying to walk to Austin. Like, what the fuck, dude? And he's like, well, we can hitchhike. He was explaining he does a lot of hitchhiking. And I'm like, like, what kind of a person picks up a young boy off the side of the road? This doesn't sound good. I mean, at 21, you're not a boy, but when you're 40 and you look at what a 21-year-old kid looks like, this does not look like a very grown-up person. And so, I was pretty wary of basically getting into cars, strange places with random people I didn't know. And I basically just backed out on the whole thing. I was like, I think I kind of shined him on a little bit. Like, yeah, maybe we'll do something. I think that we had made plans to again meet up to coordinate, and I was done with the whole thing. Again, I'm a total loner. I don't need friends. I'm not trying to I just rather take care of myself. I don't need to be coordinating and worrying. But fuck that. That's too much for me. That's why I don't have any friends now. Just the thought of trying to coordinate schedules for a night out is more than I can even cope with. And so so I just went back to doing me. You know what I mean? And so at this point, I'm starting to develop. I'm starting to figure a couple things out. And a question some of you may have been thinking to ask is, okay, so you've been on the street for a couple weeks now, and I can't remember how long exactly it had been. It was probably a couple weeks, What about showering? Where do you shower when you're homeless? Well, it just so turns out that my dad and my stepmom were members of a country club that I used to play golf at when I was a kid. And this country club was in North Garland area, right around some of the major thoroughfares that I tended to travel the bus on. This is kind of like my old stomping ground. And when you land on the street, just like anything else in life, you gravitate toward what's similar. And so the areas that I already knew were kind of the areas that I hung out. And one of the perks of this membership that they had to this golf course was that it was a family membership. And they had all known me since I was 16 years old. I played in golf tournaments out there. I was out there all the time. So I knew everybody who worked there. And so coming and going from the country club, nobody even batted an eye. My brother was out there all the time. And so obviously they had a locker room with lots of showers. You know, it was a full-blown country club. And so one of the things that I would do when I was on the street is about once a week, give or take, you know, when I started feeling dirty or when it was convenient, I would head out to this country club. Used to be called Oak Ridge. They're no longer in business, probably because they let homeless people shower there. But so that's where I would go, and it was a crazy sort of duality in life, right? So like imagine that you are homeless, you are sleeping on a bus, but you are showering at a golf course where people are literally holding the door for you and calling you sir. It's like total mind fuck when you climb off the bus after having slept, you know, disheveledly for weeks on end, and then you walk into this country club and they're like, would you like a towel, sir? Why, yes, I would. So I would go in there with my backpacks and shit, obviously, and put all my shit in the locker, and you know, it's totally safe. It's nothing but a bunch of old men anyway. And so I would shower there, and sometimes, like, you know, it's a good place to get out of the cold. You know, they had TVs and shit, and so you know, sometimes I hang out for a little while, watch TV, and usually I could get away with, like, occasionally, because my dad didn't really, like, pay, like, real close attention to the bill, but, like, his membership included dining services, and like I said, they didn't know anything was going on, and so they just treated me like a member. So sometimes I would go in there and I would just order food, you know, so, like, I would go in there, have a shower, have a burger and fries, and, you know, fucking milkshake or some shit, just put it on my dad's tab. He, you know, they were all eating out there enough that, like, he wasn't really pencil whipping the bill every month. He was just paying it. And so I didn't do it enough to where it was obvious. I was only out there like once a week or something. He may have seen it and just didn't give a shit. Like, probably thinking, like, work, you know, so what? He has a burger on me once a week. At least he's not, like, fucking living in my house. And so, so that's what I did. So for those of you who might be curious about how I showered, that's how I stayed relatively clean. I'm one of these strange people, man. Like, I don't know what it is about my unique set of biochemistry, but I don't sweat, like, at all. Like, when I started using steroids, it was the first time in life that I've ever actually sweat or really had any kind of body odor. Like, I used to be able to go easily a week of not showering, just wearing deodorant. Like, I never smelled. This has been confirmed by every girlfriend who's ever lived with me. And I had no shame in my game. I would just shower once a week. I didn't give a shit. Like, I've told you guys, like, even now, I just don't believe in stripping all of your natural oils off of soap. So even to this day, you know, I shower, you know, what I call front, back, side to sides, you know, every day. Clean the you know, the dirty parts, and then everything else I just run water and towel dry, and then I do like a full stripping down once a week. That seems to be the best thing for me to keep my acne at bay. If I use, you know, any kind of soap every single day, I just get breakouts, and so I haven't done that for years, since I was a kid. So once a week showers are already pretty standard for me. And so because of where, like, so you start having these, like, kind of like hot points where you gravitate to throughout the week, or through, you know, and so you're always staying relatively close to these areas. And so Beltline Road or Buckingham, either one of them, are these major kind of thoroughfares, like surface streets that you know, you can travel long distances on across multiple areas, like North Garland, Richardson. These are all like little suburbs of Dallas. And so right on this path, I think this was actually in Richardson, there was a library. And so I could get on the bus out in front of the golf course, and it would take me straight down, and I could, you know, like, walk over a street and go to this library. And so in the library, they had computers. You could get computer access for free. I don't remember how I got a library card, but I had one because I was in there all the time. And I wasn't a resident of, I wasn't a resident of Richardson, so I don't remember exactly how I pulled that shit off. But, so like I said, keep in mind, I don't look homeless. I look like a college kid. I've got backpacks. I'm wearing Tommy Hilfiger and polo shirts and jeans. I honestly am trying to remember. I don't remember how I did my laundry. I had some way of keeping my laundry clean. I can't remember if there was something at the golf course. I don't know why there would have been. I know I would go to my brother's house sometime, my brother's apartment occasionally. Maybe I was doing loads of laundry there. Maybe I was going to the laundromat. Shit, I was homeless. Maybe that's what it was. I can't remember honestly doing laundry, but I know that I wasn't walking around in filthy, dirty clothes. So I did something. I just don't remember what it was. And so I figured out that you could go into the library, and of course it's nice and warm in there. And I would get on. They would have these like little. Kind of like desks that were divided by little partitions, and I would notice that like every time I was in the library, there would just be people sleeping in there. Like there'd just be like a college kid like laid out on they had these like big chairs that almost looked like big bean bags, and there'd be somebody in there just taking a nap in this library. Not like a homeless person, but like I don't know. I guess they just like understood that like college kids are tired. I don't know why this was okay. But it was like, I noticed that like, you would see it a lot. And so I started going to the library to sleep during the day. And so I would go into this library and, I'd do a little research, maybe on the computer, check my email, whatever. And then I would just put my head down, just lay down like this on one of the desks inside this in this little area and just, dude, I'd knock the fuck out. I slept in there for hours. Not one time did anybody ever say a word to me. And so that became one of my hot spots for trying to get in some better quality of sleep than bouncing around on the bus. But again, it's one of those things you don't really want to abuse. Like I was real nervous, about everything because you start putting some pieces together, and then you don't want anybody to get hip to what's going on, and so. So I didn't really abuse it. Another thing that I can tell you that I discovered back then is obviously, like calories are a thing. I'm panhandling money to get food, but sometimes I would get hungry in between meals. And I discovered that a king-size Snickers bar is basically a whole meal. Like if you, let's see, king-size Snickers. If you look up the calories in a king-size Snicker bar, it's got protein, fats, and carbs in it. And you could get one back then. Okay, so a king-size Snickers bar is 440 calories. It has 8 grams of protein, 56 grams of total carbs, and 22 grams of fat. Now keep in mind, like that 8 grams of protein doesn't sound like shit to us as bodybuilders. But when you're like 110, 120 pound homeless kid, dude, you don't need that much protein to keep going. Like you're gonna get your protein like easily on 3 meals and a couple of snacks. So when I was walking the streets, which I walked miles every fucking day, like yeah, you can ride buses, but you're always trying to, not every route connects with everywhere you're going, and you're walking parking lots, panhandling, and you're going here and you're going there. And so you spend a lot of time on your feet, and that burns calories. And so being able to buy 440 calories of carbs and fat and a little protein in a chocolate bar that you could get in sometimes you get like deals at like Kroger's or whatever. So I ate so many king size Snicker bars when I was homeless. I can't stand the taste of them anymore. Like I burnt out my taste buds for Snicker bars. I don't like any kind of milk chocolate anymore because I used to, whatever candy bars or shit I could get. A lot of times back in the day, Kroger's would run like a 4 for $1. They'd have some crazy sale, and it would be like usually like Starburst, like Hershey's bars, Snickers bars, Skittles bags. I guess maybe those are all Hershey's brands or something. And you could get candy for cheap. So I would keep that shit in my backpack because, as you guys know from watching my videos, I'm prone to massive sugar crashes. When you're homeless and you're walking a mile or two from one bus to the next and you have a sugar crash, dude, that's lights out. That's a bad fucking day. And so I subsisted a lot on candy and stuff like Snickers bars, which is relatively whole food. The other thing I drank a lot of was Nesquik. You remember the old chocolate milk bottles you could get with the little rabbit on it? They don't really sell that shit anymore. I used to, God, I loved Nestle's Nesquik chocolate milk. And that was another kind of whole foods you could usually get for pretty cheap. It was like a buck 50. You get about 400, 360 calories, some good protein, some good fat and carbs. And it was something mobile, that you could grab and go, and you didn't have to panhandle an entire meal to do it. So at this point, I'm basically sleeping at the library. I'm panhandling parking lots and stuff, trying to get money for food to eat. And then I started to figure out kind of an angle. And so, because a lot of times, like when you ask people for please understand, like panhandling is a massive numbers game. You get told to go fuck yourself way more than you get helped. And people have all kinds of reactions. Some people will just ignore the shit out of you. They'll just like pretend like you don't exist. Some people get really irritated, like, go away, leave me alone. They'll like almost yell at you. Some people will say smart ass shit like, why don't you get a job? There's just varying degrees of givers. Some people are just like, it's like it just makes their day to be able to help you, to be able to give you money. Some people won't give you money, but they'll actually take you and buy you a meal. Like I mentioned in one of my previous videos. I remember this. There was more than one occasion where it's usually like kind of Christian evangelicals. Somebody's trying to save your soul. It's usually those are the ones that'll do it. And they would tell me, no, I won't give you money, but I'll buy you something to eat. And I'd be like, okay. I remember this one day, I was over in North Dallas area, right on the border of Richardson, like on that route that I'm talking about near this library. And this middle-aged white guy, he kind of had a little bit of an attitude with me when I asked him. And then he kind of immediately felt guilty about it. And he was like, look, I'm not going to give you any money. Are you really hungry? And I'm like, yeah, dude. I'm fucking hungry, man. Like, yeah. He was like, well, I'll buy you something. I'll buy you a meal. And I'm like, okay. But he wouldn't give me the money. And I was like, okay. And he we're standing. He's standing outside of his car, I guess. And he's like looking around, and there was a Grandy's, and there was like a couple of things. He's like, do you like Grandy's? I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. So he takes me into Grandy's. He buys me like 3 chicken legs and some fucking potatoes, gravy, and he sits there right next to me. We get in a booth, and this guy sits there next to me while I'm eating, and he looks at me like I'm some kind of science fair experiment. Like, he's like just sitting there just like shocked. And I guess I was probably eating like a homeless dude. I'm like shoveling this shit down, and the guy's just like blown away. He starts asking some questions, and this is when I started to figure out like people want a story. They want you to tell them a story, right? Because if they're going to help you, they want to believe that they're helping you to get better. If they believe that you're a homeless drug addict, they're not going to help you. They're not. That doesn't sync up with whatever their virtuous type of mind is. So you have to convince these people that you are on the street because of hard times, but that you have a future. And so it didn't take me long to figure out the obvious angle here. I'm going to the fucking library during the day where they've got all these college kids that are taking naps. And they're doing studies and research papers. And I'm wearing Tommy Hilfiger and polo and nice looking jeans. And I've got book bags with a bunch of books, sometimes books and magazines and writing tablets in it. So what I started telling anybody that I came into contact with was that I was a starving student. That I was just and I knew all the colleges in all the areas. So if I was right around UTD, I would just tell people I went to UTD, or I went to Richland, or I went to whatever college area I was in. That's what I did. And so when I started to get a rap together about why I was homeless, my success rate started to rapidly improve. And so one of the things I figured out, like I've said, if you notice, like if standing on the corner, if you should ever end up homeless, let me just give you a pointer. The absolute lowest return in my experience, I tried everything. I tried panhandling every kind of way. The lowest return, what sucks the most is standing on a street corner holding a sign. That is a total waste of time. You will get very, very little money if you think that you can just stand on a street corner and hold a sign. Every time I see that today from a homeless person, I'm like, come on, man. Like, you're not even trying, dude. So what I did was I became real aggressive with my homelessness. So I would stand on the corner of I would find a bus stop sign that was right on a corner, right? And I would always find a bus stop sign that was on a corner of a major intersection where every time the light would turn red, you would get like 10 cars backed up at the light. And then I would literally go up to the passenger window on the first car and I would lean down, I would look through their window and I would make this motion here, like when you ask them to roll the window down. You would be fucking blown away. I would say at least 70% of people that I asked to roll their window down would roll their passenger window down and talk to me. I was shocked. I couldn't fucking believe it. So I would say to them, hey, do you have $2 that I can catch the bus to school on? And if you told these people that you were catching the bus to school, and here you are dressed like you're going to college, you got your book bag, all of a sudden my success rate, my close rate, for lack of a better term, started to go way up. It would usually take me 5 to 10 minutes tops, absolutely tops, working a street corner to get the $2 bus fare that I needed to get on the bus. Well, it didn't take me long to figure out, like, I don't have to get on the bus. So sometimes I would stand on a corner and the light would turn red and the cars would pile up and I would say, hey, I would only take money from one car at a time. I should have been more greedy, but I wasn't because I was paranoid. I was always afraid people were going to catch on to my shit. So it's like, how can you ask one car for money to get to school and then go to the very next car and ask them for money to get to school? Like, this is gonna give up the game, right? Not that it matters because the light's gonna turn green, they're gonna fuck off anyway. But so I would lean over, I'd say, hey, do you have $2 I can catch the bus with? I'd get $1 or $2. Light would turn green, all the cars would go. I would wait for the next section of cars to pile up and I would run the scam again. I could, on average, panhandling a stop sign panhandling a street corner, I could on average make $20 an hour. Now again, it's not a lot of money, but you're homeless. You don't have any overhead. You know, the only money that I needed to survive was $2 a day. That was based on my car payment because I got to ride the bus all over DFW. So all over Dallas Metroplex. So $2 a day basically covered my car payment and my insurance. I had a cell phone, I think. I can't remember. I probably didn't actually at this point. And then food, because I didn't have a residence. So I only, $20, basically I could live on $20 a day easily. At the time, I was a cigarette smoker. And that was, to me, that was not something you wanted to go without. But when you're panhandling, that's really easy because you can panhandle cigarettes left and right. You can always find a smoker, you know, at a transit station. Like, you always get free cigarettes. That's easy to get. But I wanted to have a pack of cigarettes on me. So basically, I needed to have bus fare, a pack of cigarettes, and I like my sugar. I can't go without sugar. So obviously food. So I could stand at a bus stop sign and make $20 an hour panhandling if I wanted to. But I didn't really, just kind of like now, I only really want to work as much as I have to work. And so, so again, that's how I started starting to come up like a tiny bit to where I basically wasn't starving anymore. I always had enough money to get on the bus and I always had 3 meals a day. And I mean 3 meals. So like one of my favorite places to go was on Preston Road, I think. Preston Road at like Arapahoe. I would panhandle a bus stop sign there because right like less than a quarter of a mile from that bus stop was a Chinese food buffet. So man, I love some Chinese food buffet and it cost $7. So I would stand there on that corner panhandling cars trying to get bus fare to school until I had, you know, $10 or so. And then I would go eat Chinese food buffet until I was about to fucking burst. So while I was homeless, I was not eating bad at all. I was eating, you know, Chinese food buffets, lots of fast food, you know, Boston Market, I would go to the grocery store, pick up little things, which we'll get to here in a minute. So I was no longer starving at this point. I had a place to shower. I had a way to get enough money to where I was not going without. I was not like emaciated and losing weight. I had a full belly at all times. I had cigarettes to smoke. And so really at this point, the only real major problem that I had was I was still strung out from busted ass sleep. Because again, like I had nowhere to go at night. So it was about this time that I had been studying the bus maps. And I had, like, in my backpack, I had the system map that showed you the entire system, and then each bus line has an individual paper map that shows you everywhere it goes, and it shows you all of the times that the bus is going to stop there. So during the night when I didn't have shit to do, I crunched all the numbers, and I figured out, I studied the entire Dallas Metro system map with all of the bus routes, and I figured out that the transit center in Addison, Texas, which is just north of Dallas, in fact, it's right where Nick and I used to live. So I told you in the beginning of this story, I was living with a guy named Nick in Addison Circle. Well, lo and behold, there's a transit center right outside of the Addison Circle, like little residential area. And that transit center, for whatever reason, had the latest running bus and the earliest running bus. So of all of the area, entire DFW, in the entire DART system, Dallas Area Rapid Transit System, that station had the shortest downtime. And so the last bus, I think the last bus got there at 12:10, if I remember correctly. The last bus arrived at 12:10, and the first bus left at like 5:30, 5:40 in the morning, something like that. So whatever that math is, about 5 hours, 5.5 hours is what I had to kill every night where I didn't have any place to go. So what turns out is right down the street, walking distance, this is maybe half a mile or a mile from this bus station, there's a Denny's. And Denny's sells all you can drink coffee for 99 cents. So what I would do is I would ride the bus all day long, sleeping on buses, sleeping in libraries, going to shower at the golf course at the country club, eating my Chinese food buffet, do a little shopping, and then I would ride the bus around, panhandling all the money that I needed to live, and then I would get off that 12:10 bus at the Addison Transit Station, and I would walk that half a mile or mile down to the Denny's. I would sit down at a table, I would order one 99-cent cup of coffee, and I would sit in Denny's drinking refills on that coffee until 5:40 in the morning every single morning. And because I was a paying customer and I wasn't causing any problems, they left me the fuck alone. So I sat in Denny's every night writing stories in my journals, and I stayed up all 5 hours of the night, and then I slept broken sleep as much as I could get during the day while also panhandling enough to survive. But after a couple of weeks of this, it may have been a month, I don't remember, because by the time we're probably into end of February, it's gaining on April is where we're at right now. So we've gotten through the coldest part of winter, things are starting to warm up a little bit, and I have now realized that the only way I'm going to survive this life is I have got to find a place to call home. The sleeping on buses, sleeping in libraries, not getting any kind of recuperative sleep was really starting to take its toll. And so I knew that I had to do something. I had to find a place that I could go every single night and try to get at least 8 hours of sleep. Otherwise, I was going to lose my goddamn mind. So when we come back, I'm going to tell you where I how I got to find my own home on the street, and how everything changed remarkably from having no place to sleep at night to suddenly having a base camp that I could call home and set up operation, and I was good to go. I could have basically lived on the street as long as I needed to do. In fact, I lived on the street as long as I wanted to until I finally decided I had enough. So as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.